G'day reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Welcome to Gallery Aquatica TV. Today we're back at Cameraman's Reef. Now this is the tank that you saw us treat Bryopsis, but today we're back for a second problem that we're going to be treating, and that is the bubble algae. The bubble algae is absolutely choking this tank. We're going to talk about the different options for how you can remove bubble algae from your system, and we're going to show you the before and after of the treatment that we're going to use on this tank. Bubble algae, also known as Valonia, is a genus of algae which can really be nasty in your tank. Now, the tank behind me, Cameraman's Reef, is suffering in a particularly bad way due to bubble algae, and you can see certain areas of the tank, like down here in the bottom right hand corner, and some of the pieces of rock through the system are really covered, or they're smothered in the bubble algae, and the bubble algae will choke out the corals. It will cause detritus trap, and it just looks horrible in your reef tank. So we'll talk about the different ways that you can remove bubble algae from the system. For a long time, the only way to control bubble algae in your reef tank was to use cleanup crew. Now, the best cleanup crew are urchins and rabbitfish, and this tank does have a couple of short spine urchins. I generally find diadema urchins are the best option for bubble algae, but they do have their limitations. The shape of the diadema urchins doesn't allow them to get into the nooks and crannies, so they can make a big difference, but they won't totally eradicate the bubble algae from your system. Rabbitfish like fox faces and other rabbitfish are great at picking the bubble algae out of your tank. They do have their own limitations as well. Again, they can't get into some of the nooks and crannies. But the biggest problem with rabbitfish is that they will outgrow most tanks. This tank behind me in particular, it's deemed too small to have a rabbitfish. And so today we're going to use a treatment that is going to fully eradicate the bubble algae from this system. So let's check out the continuum equation. The continuum clean equation M is an excellent treatment for bubble algae. Now, it is also quite effective on some other things like hair algae, caulerpa as well. This tank does have a little bit of caulerpa, which is in amongst the rockwork. So I'm hopeful that we'll see some improvement with that with the clean equation. Now, there are some things you need to note. It will kill macroalgae that may be in your refugium. So if you have caulerpa or chaetomorpha, you want to remove them before you start the treatment. The treatment is generally done over a couple of weeks. You treat for the first 6 days and then alternate days after that. But we're going to show you the treatment protocol for the tank behind me. We're going to be treating on 350 litres system volume. So I'll show you exactly how we calculate the treatment of the equation for the Cameraman's Reef. So what I've done is I've just calculated the dose rate based on the back of the bottle of the clean equation M, so that I can see each day's dosage. Now, I've calculated it on 350 litre system volume for this tank, and day 1 we've got 4.6, day 2 9.2, day 3 13.8, etc. And then after the 6 days, we're going to go back to a day 3 rate, which is 13.8 mils every second day. But I like to have a little tick off box so that I know that I've done it. You're best off treating with the equation in the morning. You don't want to treat it at night ideally. But importantly, you want to remember when you've dosed. So this little tick off sheet makes that easy. We're going to start with our day 1 dose, which is 4.6 mils. We've got the perfect syringe, which is going to make it very easy. So that's our 4.6 mils, and we just add that straight to the tank. Done. You don't usually see a quick effect with the clean equation M on your system, and generally it takes at least a couple of weeks before the bubble algae starts to die. So we'll give the tank at least 2, but more likely 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll come back and we'll show you the results of the clean equation on Cameraman's Reef. And we are back at the Cameraman's Reef after 4 weeks. Now, before we have a look at the results of the equation treatment, let's just talk about exactly what we've done. We have done a 6-day treatment with an increasing dose of the equation. We have then done 2 weeks of a maintenance dose. Now, the maintenance dose is every second day at a reduced dose rate. And that was a week ago that we finished the maintenance dose. So it's been 4 weeks since we were here last. And when we were here last, as you saw, there was a massive amount of bubble algae. So let's check it out and see how the bubble algae has fared with the treatment. Looking around the tank, it's very obvious that there's been a huge reduction in the bubble algae. Now, I've really struggled to find a single piece of bubble algae, but you can actually see on the wave maker up here that there is some bubble algae which has been drawn into the intake. Now, you can see that the bubble algae that's there is actually quite clear, and this is what happens as it's dying off. It'll actually bleach out and you'll see it go clear, become a real shell of itself, and then break off and float around the tank before it's taken down into the filter or into the wave makers like this. But as you recall, previously with this tank, there was huge amounts of bubble algae accumulating in the Neros when it was growing and proliferating like crazy. So clear to say that there's definitely been a huge reduction in the bubble algae, and I would definitely say it has been a massive success. Now, we can say that the bubble algae has been effectively eradicated from this tank. We'll probably do something to keep it from coming back, possibly adding a diadema urchin or a foxface or a rabbitfish or something like that, so that we don't have a relapse with the bubble algae. However, the real question now is, how has the tank fared? You'll recall we took the macroalgae out of the filter, so we do have a compromised filter through the period of the treatment, but really there hasn't been any negative effects that I can put down to the treatment itself. There are a few corals, of course, that are looking a little bit unwell, but that's largely due to the pests that this tank has endured. Now, you'll remember we did do a fluconazole treatment on this tank before the equation treatment. So this tank has had bryopsis, it's had the bubble algae, it did have a little bit of chlorpra, which is also gone from the equation treatment, but there's still the aptasia, which will be something that we'll look at in a future episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. But certainly the damage that has happened to some of the corals is not due to the treatment, but the pests that have been stinging the corals and just making it a bit of a difficult environment for the corals to thrive. But overall, the coral health is excellent, and there are some really good signs, good polyp extension, the trachea, the goni, the bird's nest, SPS and LPS, they're doing very well considering the challenges that they've got with, in particular, the aptasia now. So fair to say that the continuum equation M treatment has been a massive success for the bubble algae on the Cameraman's Reef. Now, if you know of any other ways that you can eradicate bubble algae from your tank, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe our videos. We really appreciate the support. But as we touched on, we do have one massive problem left that we have to deal with, and that is the aptasia infestation on the Cameraman's Reef. And we'll bring you an episode of Gallery Aquatica TV in the future where we show you exactly how we tackle that problem. But that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing.